Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Fang Fen. Today, I will talk about self-driven discriminative region localization for fine-grained visual recognition. Okay, object recognition is a computer vision technique that can be used to identify, localize, and classify objects from digital images and our real-life scenario. So coarse grain and fine grain are two approaches to this task. And coarse grain actually refers to our typically mentioned image classification task, which is about the distinguishing between things like dogs, cats, or airplane, and so on. But in in coarse grain, these three objects are classified as dogs. But in fine grain, they are recognized as like a Poodle, Labrador, and Shiba Inu. So in fine-grained visual recognition, we call it FGVR, is about classifying visual objects from subcategories. For example, different breeds of dogs, different species of birds, of different models of airplanes. In our collaborative project, we also need to recognize visually similar truths for specific operation. For example, in this casing base and casing top assembly and disassembly process, we need to use these three screwdrivers with different subtle different heads. So this is basically the motivation why we do such a study in our collaborative project. So the FGVR is a very challenging task because it aims to differentiate among very hard to distinguish objects. There are two main challenges in this task. On one hand, objects from similar subcategories may have very extremely subtle difference, which is very hard for human to recognize. For example, these two birds are different different classes, but the looks very very similar to each other. So this challenge is called the small interclass variance. And on the other hand, objects from the same subcategory, for example, these four goose, they may present very large appearance variation because of different viewing angle and a very complex background and occlusion and so on. So this challenge is called the large interclass variance. So in our collaborative project, we also encounter such a challenge for recognizing visually similar truths. For example, for this three type of screwdriver, without zooming in the left image, it's very hard for us to tell what is the difference among them. So a lot of work have been done on this FGVR problem. I split them into three groups. The first group is called parts localization approaches. And this method train a model using RCN or other searching algorithms to localize discriminative parts of regions on an object and use these parts to represent the whole image for the final object recognition. And for this part, for this method, we can see here it requires multiple annotated object parts. And these parts can be very expensive and time-consuming to obtain. So the second method is called the attention-based method. So attention system allows for silent features to dynamically come to forefront as needed. So that can be used to localize that can be used to localize informative characteristic of object in an image. Okay, in this representative framework, it first uses a very strong CNN to extract the visual features, and then use multi-level LSTM to diversify visual attentions, and then this multi-level visual attention will be concatenated for the final object classification. But this method prone to overfitting because it may be too specified on specific part of object in a training set, but may not in our real-world data. The third method is called the deep reinforcement learning DRL-based method. Basically, this method localizes the discriminative region of object in a hierarchical way. First, it utilizes object DRL to find the number of the discriminative regions in the image. and the referee position of these regions. And then it utilizes the part TRL to fine-tune these discriminative regions in the image. Okay, so far we can find there is one thing in common for these three groups of methods, because they all aim to find the multiple discriminative regions. So, but the number of the discriminative regions is different from image to image and object to object. So missing any such of regions may result in wrong object recognition. So we propose to solve the FGVR problem also in a localized to a classified fashion, but we only want to use a single part to indicate the discriminative region in the image. For example, given this input image, we use a region localization model to find to localize the discriminative region, which is within this red boundary. And this boundary should contain most of informative characteristic of object, for example, the graving and the pin length and so on. So then we use this region as to present the whole image for the final object classification. But the problem is, how can we get this region, the red region? Because it is not the ground truth boundary of the object, which is the green one. It's also not the symbol combination of the object informative parts, which is three dotted parts. So is it possible for us to label the ground truth discriminative region in the image? Okay, and more importantly, even for the same object, for example, these two birds are the same, but due to different poles, the discriminative regions are different. So these issues make it possible for us to manually label such a discriminative region on an image. Hence, we need a mechanism to learn adapter to break the so-called adaptive box to indicate this discriminative region. And also we need the aspect classifier to verify whether the region is discriminative or not. So we propose a novel FGVR framework for solving the FGVR problem. The framework contains two modules. The first module is the discriminative knowledge distillation module, and the discriminative region adaptation learning module. Okay, in the first module, we train a strong classifier by distilling knowledge from multiple weak classifier. And each classifier is trained by using an input image and a predefined coarse region on it. And second, as I have claimed that it is impossible to label a ground truth discriminative region on an image. So we propose to use the reinforcement learning to train an adapter. Because reinforcement learning doesn't require ground truth. It utilizes feedback from the environment to drive the adaptive learning. So this is the reason why we call method the self-driven. So in our case, the environment is the FGVR classifier, which obtained from this module. And the feedback is the object recognition result from this classifier. So, knowledge distillation is a very complex technique. I'm not going to talk much about it. Put it simply, it is to transfer knowledge from multiple models to a single model for saving computational complexity and the memory. So basically, in this knowledge distillation process, we are going to minimize three types of losses. The first loss is LC. It is to measure the difference between each weak classifier and the ground truth. And the KL loss is to quantize the difference between the prediction from this aggregated knowledge and the single classifier. And the last loss is to measure the error between this prediction result from the single classifier and the ground truth. So after the knowledge distillation, we should be able to get a very strong classifier with outstanding performance, because it encodes the knowledge learned from multiple weak classifier. So given an input image, if any one of the weak classifier can classify it correctly, then it will be very high chance for this strong classifier to recognize it correctly. So then the discriminative region adapter is learned by using reinforcement learning, given an input image and the initial region on it. And we designed 3 actions to control this region tuning, which are region moving scalar action, the region moving direction action, and the region scaling scalar action. And after taking these 3 actions, we will have a new region. And this new region will be assessed by computing 2 losses, two reward here. The first reward is called RC. Actually, it's the object recognition result from this classifier. And the second reward is called RCAM. It's the estimation of the IOU between IOU means the intersection of union between this region and the CAM map, a class activation map. So the region adapt learning on these 3 actions can be optimized by maximizing these 2 reward computing. Okay, now the technique part over. Here we show some quantitative results to verify the benefit of our method on subtle difference recognition. We did experiment on 9 public data sets and benchmarked with 3 recent SOTA methods. And our results are showing top 1 accuracy. And for some methods marked the star here means it used both primary dataset and the secondary dataset. Primary dataset means this dataset itself, and the primary secondary dataset means other dataset, for example, ImageNet or COCO. So this result shows that our method actually outperforms these SOTA methods, including the recent SOTA, P2PNet, and the best SOTA, CAP. We also simulated the discriminability comparison between using different regions as a discrimination for the same classifier. The first row shows we use the train region, which is the region we use to train the weak classifier, and the second region means we use the discrimination tuned by our adapter. So this comparison result can shows that using our adapter trained region as a discriminant region, we can have objects in the same cluster are more compact, and the different clusters are further apart. This indicates a more clear differentiation among different subcategories. Okay, here are some visualization results, mainly for verify 2 things. The first is to show that our agent or this region adapter is able to tune the initial region, which is the red one, towards the discriminative region, is the yellow one. And the second is to verify that, as I claimed before, that it's the discriminative region is different from image to image, object to object, even within the same subcategory. To further show the effectiveness of our method on the industrial use case, we did experiment on the assembly and disassembly tools dataset. Okay, and this result, comparison result, we can see the effectiveness of both the modules that I have mentioned, 2 modules in our framework, the distillation, the knowledge distillation module, and the discriminative region adapter module. In our framework, both of them are effective. So to conclude, based on 3 observations from the FGVR problem, the first, the neural network ability to accurately recognize the object actually is highly dependent on some specific region, discriminated regions, and these regions is different from image to image, object to object. So it is impossible for us to manually label the ground truth for this discriminated region. So we proposed a novel framework containing 2 modules, the discriminative knowledge distillation module and the DRL adaptive learning module to solve the FGVR problem. Okay, thanks. That's all.